So back to our project here. Let's go ahead and figure out ways in which we can actually access all of these widgets we added. You should know now how to do this. But again, going back to understanding the R, if we go back to our project here, in fact, we already have our main activity. Let's just click on our main activity. There it is, our R. So what is R doing again? R.layout. So that means it's going through our project here, res, right? Because it's R, resources. This is resources. It knows exactly where to go. So it goes to our res, resources, goes and finds our layout, and finds the activity that main.xml, right? And then there we go, activity underscore main. You notice that it doesn't actually have to pass the XML here because it knows that activity main in this case is a layout form and it's going to be an XML type. So we don't need to pass the extension.xml. Okay, there it is, our R. In fact, if we were to come there and say R dot, look at this. So there's all these classes that allow us to access all these different resources. Drawable, you see this drawable here? There's a drawable. I can say value, R dot, there's drawable there. Very good. So in this case here, what do we need to do? As we said before, we want to go and fetch. First of all, let's go back to design here. Let's go ahead and fetch this first one here, this first text view. Well, you notice that this text view, because we have this first one here, and we have this second one here, because we didn't actually add our own IDs, Android Studio went ahead and gave us one. And you can see they're not very good descriptive IDs. So we should never just let Android Studio give us their own IDs unless we're doing something very simple. In this case here, text view 2, it has no meaning. Text view 1 or text view rather only, it also has no meaning, right? So we need to get this one here. So let's give it a nice ID here. I'm going to say money text like that. Okay, that's a nice ID. Hit enter. I'm going to say yes to update everything else. So there we go. There is our ID money text. In this case here, we don't need to change this ID here. Why? Because we're not going to need to access this text view in our main.java. So in that case, we just leave it as it is. That's fine if it has ID text view just like that. For our make it rain, I'm going to also say button. Like there we go. I'm going to say underscore. I'm going to say make rain like that. Enter, and this is going to say you need to update everything that has that reference as well. And notice it says this will update all XML references and Java R field references. And we, yes, want this to happen so that the whole system knows, now we've changed the ID of this item here, so everybody needs to know about this, just in case everybody or any one of you wants to access it. So of course, we're going to say yes. And there we go. And for our tag, I'm going to do the same thing. Click on that. I'm going to say button, prepend it, and I'm going to say show tag. Hit enter, and voila. Now, if we go to our main activity here, as we always do, we're going to create a few things here. I'm going to say private button. As such, the first button is going to be what? I'm going to say show money. Say private button and say show tag, something like this. All right, now we have our button types, instance variables, that we can then instantiate them. To instantiate them, we have to come down inside of our OnCreate. I'm going to say show money is equal to what? Find view by ID, hit enter. There is R dot what? ID dot, I want to say button make rain. Enter like this. I'm going to do the same thing to our show tag. I'm going to say find view r.id. I'm going to say show tag as such. If you save this, life is good. Right? So now we have connected our show money and show tag to these items that we created here. These views, 200 or 2000, make it rain, and show tag. Okay. And as you saw previously, once we have our button, we can come down here. I can say show money. I'm going to just say dot set OnClick listen as it is. I don't have to type everything, just hit enter. And inside here, I'm going to just pass an OnClick listener interface. I'm going to say new OnClick listener, hit enter, and voila, now we have this OnClick. Which means we can actually log things to our logcat here. So we can see down here if things are actually working. right? Because we are still debugging, still fixing things out, make sure that users actually have a good application here, right? So we can actually just log few things that we want to see that things are actually working before we do the final code. So in this case here, we can use the log class to log something. Now the beauty here, because we are in Android Studio, we can just go and say log like this, right? And you have a few different logs. Now all of these logs are different levels of logging. We'll talk more about them, but this log D is log debug. Notice in this class here, okay, we'll say log.debug, we have to pass a text so we can say, okay, this debug log here comes from this method or so. So we can actually control and know exactly where things are coming from. This is just for us developers, right? So if I hit enter, then we have to pass this tag string and then the string, whatever we want to show. Hit enter like that. And this tag here we haven't created. I can go click here. For now, I'm just going to go and say my tag like that. We'll have a better description there, but that is fine, right? So there we go. So the message here that we want to show when we click this button here, which is show money, because we're setting it up so that when clicked, this will show, is going to be something like that. And in this case here, I can even add something like show money. Let's save and see what's going to happen. Let's go ahead and refresh that. Very good. And say make money. Let's go to our log and see if that happens. There we go. My tag, as you can see, OnClick, show money. Very nice. And the cool thing is, if you have a lot of things, as you can see, there's a lot of things going on, I can come down here and change to debug, because that's the level that I said I want to see things, the D here. I can change to debug only, and then it only show all the debugs. But there's a lot of other debugs that we don't care about, which means we can come and search here. Now I can search by my tag. I can say, for instance, my, let's see, it has to be exactly my, all cap, my tag, and now we can see it. So that helps us to just go straight to what we want to see, make sure it works. Very good. This works fine, and in fact, you could always do like this, and it's totally fine. You'll probably find me doing this way all the time. But Android has evolved so many times, and it's making things a little bit more easier on us developers. So lucky you, because when I started, things were a little bit rougher, right? So things are evolving, things change, technology changes, and that is a good thing. So you should be very happy about that. Meaning, now we don't really have to go through all of this to get this result that we're seeing here, this OnClick. In fact, I will show you. Now you can go straight to our activity XML, and let's go to, for instance, our text view. For each button, we can actually add a OnClick. So I can come here and say OnClick. Look at that. Now we have this OnClick method that if you go ahead and say enter, we can pass the name of the method that we want to call in our Java so that it will be called when users click this button. I can say here, show tag, for instance, okay? So now once we do that, if you hover over, you notice we have a problem. It says corresponding method handler public void show tag and passing the view is not found. Well, it's not found because we haven't created here. So now I can actually get rid of this. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and comment this out, and I'm going to go outside our void on create here, because that is just a method. Not just, it is a method, I should say. And at the bottom here, make sure we are outside of on create, right? So here I'm going to say public void, I'm going to say show tag. Now I will have to pass a view v like this. I'll explain in a second here. Now that I have this show tag, if we go back to our XML main there, notice this is no longer with issues. That means everything has been resolved. Ah, interesting. So now I can come and get this copy where we had previously, and I'm going to go ahead and put it here. So notice what's going to happen. If I save this and just do a quick run, and I'm going to open our logcat, and look what's going to happen. Remember, now I am doing show tag, and look what happens. Like that, it said show money. Of course, I just copied and pasted. This should say show tag, of course, but that's not the point. The point is this is actually working as well. Very, very interesting. Now, the reason why we need to pass this view here, v, is very simple. I'll give you a secret here. That's very important. Everything in Android is indeed a view. So whenever we say show tag, because we want to make sure that we return something, in this case, we want something to happen, I should say, we want to make sure that this show tag is being passed through a view, because indeed this is a button. The button is also a view. So for that to work, we have to always pass this view inside here, even though we didn't use it. In fact, if you get rid of this and save and give it a run, click, now we have a problem, right? And this is not good. It just says that, well, with a problem here, let's go to run here. Let's see what's going to say. All right, there we go. All of this problem here says illegal state exception could not find method show tag, which has to be passed a view in parent of ancestor. The reason why I have to pass the view, as I say, is that we need to make sure that the hierarchy in which things are happening as we create our views and we click on those views, they have to know which view is within which hierarchy in the view. I know it's a little bit complicated now, but we'll explain with more details later. Just remember, every time you gotta pass a view here, always. In fact, this is what it told us in our main when we were creating this show tag. So if we come down here and say show tag, now we can see it says show tag has to have a view. Okay, very good. So there we go. So I can do the same thing, of course, with our other button, which is this one here. So come down here. Where you put this doesn't matter, really. So I'm just gonna click, and this time I'm gonna say make it rain. As such, we have that problem. Come to main and say public void make it rain view v or view, doesn't matter. I'm gonna say log d. This is make it rain tapped, and of course I can go ahead and say my make it rain, something like this. It has to be a string, of course. Make it rain. That's fine, doesn't matter. Save that and do a quick run. We should be able to see some good results there. If all goes well, click make it rain. It says tapped. Click this one here, says show money. And of course you can see the log also showing there. In fact, get rid of this. You can see, there you go, on click, show money, make it rain is also tapped, okay? So both ways, inside of run and logcat, you will see both showing, as you can see there, okay? All right, so that was a new concept here. Again, you can use both. Like I said, we have our show money, our show tag, we did find by ID, and we could use this set on click listener. In fact, like I said, you see me using both interchangeably. I just want to show you that there's this new way that you can just do. Saves you a little bit of code, right? But either way, it works. Good. Play around with this concept, and I'll see you in the next video.